Hey, Marcus. Can you sit back? Just. Okay, we are doing a Jiffy lesson today with my husband Forrest, and he is a total beginner. So we're going to be going over the ideal dressage position for a rider and why we hold that position. We don't have a babysitter, and I had a whole diagram here, but it got destroyed, and I'm just going to explain without the diagram, and you can kind of a little bit see the horse, maybe not. Okay, so let's talk about why we sit on a horse the way we do, and I'll get into the actual position in a minute. But as a rider, you want to be able to communicate to the horse clearly, so it's in a way that they understand, and you want to be balanced on horse, because essentially your body is moving and working with the equine that you're on. So in order to do that, well, actually, let me just, oh, you can't see it anymore. But anyways, the goal here is to communicate with effectiveness and then with elegance, because eventually your aides will be able to communicate so well because your position is so good and your timing is so good that the average eye won't be able to see it. So let's get into what the position looks like. So when you're sitting in the saddle, and really just imagining yourself in the saddle, because we're preparing for our lesson.
You want me to imagine myself in the saddle right now?
Yes, yeah, that's the whole point. Imagine, because we're basically, you have a real horse ride tomorrow, so we're preparing for that.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
Okay, so you're sitting in the saddle. We had this up earlier, so I'm just going to kind of, you would like a straight line all the way from the apex of your head or your helmet, through your back, through your hips, and then to your feet. So your seat bends and then through your feet. So that's the first straight line that we're going to be drawing. And in order to, actually I'll just stop right there and talk about how do we maintain this straight line while we're in the saddle. So I would say one of the most, or two of the most important things is going to be your core and your hips, aka kind of your seat bones. Because your core is going to hold your seat bones in the correct place. So when you're sitting in the saddle, to maintain that line, you need upright seat bones. I know this is the second time we filmed this, but if your seat bones are
How do I know this?
if your seat bones are more forward, we're just going to pretend like we didn't do this. So if your seat bones are more forward, what do you think is going to happen to the rest of the body?
Then you're going to be out of alignment, you know? So
Yes.
that line that's going straight up to the top of your head is going to be like looking
Shifted
like that.
forward.
Yeah.
And then what do you think is going to happen to your lower leg if you're shifted
Well,
forward
the
naturally?
legs are going to have to go back.
Yeah, to support, to balance the body. Okay, so yeah, you'd be tilted forward and your leg would naturally want to fall back. That we see that a lot in like hunter jumpers, because that's more how they maintain their ideal riding position, is a more forward seat and their leg is more back. But that's not what we want. So let's talk about what happens when your seat bones are more shifted back. Obviously, your upper body, right? What's
Yeah, your
gonna
upper
happen?
body's going to be back and your legs are going to be more forward.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so in order to hold those seat bones or your hips in place, you're going to need your core. Because you're on a moving horse, you're going to have a strong core. And in addition to that, you also are going to need to have flexible hips, right? Because if you're on a horse, you want your seat bones to be able to move with the horse. So you're working as a team instead of working against each other.
Okay.
So you're going to need flexible hips. A lot of times with riders who have really stiff hips or maybe have a hip injury, you're going to see, or like an older rider, for example, they are going to just bounce in the saddle a lot more unless they do yoga or Pilates or really work to develop their hip flexibility. Okay, let's move on to the legs and feet of the rider.
Okay.
So if your hip bones are in the right place, your legs are going to naturally fall in an elongated position, right? Because if you're more shifted forward, the hips are going to be more tightened back. If they're more, they might be too long and forward like this. So remember, you want that foot to fall in that line.
Yeah.
Okay, and then your feet, you have stirrups in your saddle. You're going to put your feet in the stirrups, obviously, and where are they going to go? We talked about this a minute
Yeah,
ago.
you're going to keep your toes, I guess, kind of up.
Yes.
You don't want it to be like whoosh,
Yeah.
but just more up, and you want the stirrup to be on the ball of that foot right there.
Yes, exactly. And a lot of this position isn't just to communicate effectively, it's also safety reasons, because having that heel down and the stirrup at the ball of your foot is going to keep you from getting your foot stuck in the stirrup if you were to fall off, or just keep the foot in the stirrup in general. Okay, so we talked about the legs, we talked about the hips, we talked about the core, we talked about the seat. Let's talk a little bit about your arms and kind of your upright body.
Okay.
So you want to be sitting up in the saddle straight. You don't want to be slouching. You're not at your desk like gaming. you are, you're riding. So you want to be upright, engaged,
Yeah.
and you want your arms to be loose at your sides. Yeah.
Not
exactly.
90 degrees.
No, you don't want to be 90 degrees. And that actually brings me to another really good point that I forgot to mention because this is the second time we filmed this. The second straight line you want to maintain is from your elbow to the horse's bit. So your elbow, this is your one of your communication lines, is going to go straight through your reins, and then to the horse's mouth. So if your arm is at a 90-degree angle, how is that going to feel to the horse's mouth?
Well, wouldn't it pull on the horse's mouth?
It would pull on the horse's mouth. That's true.
So the horse would just be like this. And
Well, possibly not. That's a whole other thing. But yeah, it wouldn't be very comfortable. And you want to be able to have flexible elbows because you're on a moving animal.
yeah.
And let's talk about how we hold the reins. Yeah, and did I mention that that has to be a straight line? I think I said that already, but okay. So let me show you how we hold the reins.
Okay.
Here, you pretend that you're the horse's bit. I don't know where my bridle is, so we're just doing this. You want to hold, since we're riding dressage in English, you want to first start out holding it like an ice cream cone.
Okay.
Kind of, but instead of having your thumb or like this, you're gonna have it on top of the rein. Okay, perfect. Then you're gonna take your pinky finger.
Do you want me to actually do
Actually,
this?
yeah, since you started to anyways, that's
Sure.
perfect. Okay, you're gonna take your pinky finger and it should be in between your ring finger and your pinky finger.
This?
Yeah, exactly right. And the reason, because, so the thumb is gonna keep the rein in place, right? So if your horse is tugging, you should pull the other end. This keeps it in place. And you want,
Oh, I see.
you don't wanna be clenching, right? Because all of these fingers are ways to communicate with the animal. So even just clenching this part is going to change the feeling from the horse. That's how sensitive they are. Yeah. And then remember that line you're going to keep in. The horse, like I said, it's a moving animal. It's not going to stay perfectly still all the time. So that elbow is going to need to be flexible.
Okay.
You know, and moving with the horse organically. Let's see. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
Let's see, do you have any, we went
Core.
over what goes on. Oh wait, another thing that goes wrong is gonna be the rider's heels and feet. Oftentimes new riders are not going to have their foot in the stirrup correctly. It's gonna take a little bit of practice to like know that it stays and to be really familiar with the feeling of it on the ball of your foot. Yeah, I'm trying to think of other things when I see like men who haven't ridden before who get on horses. I would say you guys usually don't have a problem with keeping your legs like too tight. But if you were to have that problem, I would put you in a no stirrup lesson because that can really force the leg to drop and elongate.
No.
Well, let's pause there. Do you have any questions? Like imagine yourself sitting on a horse.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think you explained it really well. But I didn't know that you have to put it between the pinky, and I didn't know that this was so sensitive that you move your finger.
Yeah, like even
Fingers.
this.
Yeah, I had no idea. I thought if you would have put me on it for the first time, I would have went like this.
Yeah, I figured.
So.
And then to kind of go off on the sensitivity a little bit, like, you know, even your seat bones, like a clenching of the seat bones in your buttocks and your core at the same time is going to even signal things to the horse, even through that saddle, which you wouldn't expect. But yeah, there's a lot of, and that's another reason why we don't want to be off balance. Whoa! That's another reason why we don't want to be off balance because it's going to cause the horse to not understand because they're so sensitive.
Yeah.
You're going to be giving signals the wrong way. Okay, we're going to conclude that since our child has done it anyways, but that is the ideal dressage position. Thank you.
Okay. You done?